Greetings and salutations, everybody and anybody who is watching this. Welcome to my takeover from lovely New York City. I'm Daniel Wisniewski. A little bit about me, if you don't know. I'm a professional narrator. I have narrated almost 200 books, the vast majority of which are in the lit RPG, fantasy, sci-fi genre. Also done some romance in there. Also done some regular classic fiction, classic fantasy, classic sci-fi. Been doing pretty well for that since about 2019. Time's great, but just doing that, and very excited to be a part of this event for the second year in a row, and sort of just talking to myself. Hey, Brian. Oh, shucks, Bri. Thank you kindly. But yeah, first time ever really doing a panel of this sort of nature. Ahoy, Ryan. Ahoy. I'm not really exactly sure what I should be doing, just because I don't normally do this sort of thing. But I talk to myself for a living. That is absolutely fair. And now there's people here. I know there's at least two people here, so it feels more like a conversation. But I can absolutely ramble on. If anybody has any questions about me, about stuff that I've done in particular, about anything like that, I will gladly answer those. Some cool talking points. I can also just talk about, what I do and how I do it. Like, I can, talk about my space, talk about like how I record, talk about the process. So if anybody's curious about that, I can do that. But yeah. Okay, I see Brian. What's going to happen is people, will throw requests at you to say things in accents. I'm so sorry, Daniel Dance. I will gladly do that. Hello, James. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I really do. Your neighborhood, your favorite color, your favorite subject in high school, that sort of thing. But yeah, I do really appreciate the nice words. Said this a little bit on the panel yesterday, the I'll Miss Being Blank panel. Just go check that out again. Go watch that. That's a lot of fun. But we talked about how this job is a lot of throwing stuff into the void, throwing stuff out into the ether, and seeing if anything sticks, not really getting feedback if stuff sticks or not. So to have a time where people are like, you're cool, you're really good at this, that's awesome, and just like, it makes me feel very vindicated. So thank you for all of that. James got a question. Do you prefer to do solo narration, duel, or duet? Good question. I find that it depends entirely upon the material. I think that duet, which is more, I consider duet as the lines are spliced in, and duel as, I record the male POV chapters and then the female records the female POV chapters, but we don't intermingle. They're like our own interpretations. I hope that's correct. I think that's correct, but that's the way I do it. I don't always. Oh, thank you, Emmanuel. I don't know why it's soothing. I'm actually kind of sick today. I had to run out and get the tussin, get that Robitussin. But I find that I really prefer any more solo, just because it's the easiest for me to put my blinders up, get my head down, jump in, and get it out. And to have more control over the characters and pronunciations and things like that. So that makes me happy. Brian. Yes, Lombardi. And I haven't even gotten... Aha! Yes, that was a very fun book. So Quest Academy, that series. Silvers, if you haven't bought it yet, buy it and listen to it. Say all the nice things. Give me reviews. Send me presents. But that book was a bit of a challenge, accent-wise, at first, only because in the notes, it didn't specify which voices where or which accents where. It was very, general American for a lot of them. And I'm a man who loves to to just squeeze in so many random accents into a material that some voices make sense, some don't. But for that one, I know that there were a couple of characters in that book that I'm just like, they gotta be like, New York, like a New York tough guy kind of vibe. So a couple of those voices went in. I know Lombardi turned out to be a personal favorite for me to voice when I got those. But that was a partner book. That was with Rebecca Woods, who's a dear friend and I love working with. So yeah, that, not to say I wouldn't want to do the other styles. It's just it all's a different vibe. I think solo, just you have the most creative control. Duet, it's a lot more on the, yes, add some accent notes. Duet, you have to counterbalance with your partner. And dual, you just got to make it's even more of a counterbalance, but you can't really listen to it, as much. But all right, I see more comments. Oh, well, so I worked as a dialect coach actually for a little bit. Oh, the Warglider book. Yes, that was just throwing all the accents, throwing Norse, throwing everything. But I worked as a dialect coach in theater a few times before. And so I just love the musicality of accents. I love the musicality of how people speak. I think that those kinds of patterns and those kinds of which words get hit weird and which words don't, and for everybody, I just find fascinating. Like even the small differentials between, American speech and things like that. I just think it's fascinating. So give me accents. I'll do them all, except Australian and Boston at the same time. That's way too hard. Are there any narrators you would love to work with? And are there any authors you want to work with? Thank you, James. Narrators. I mean, yes, I mean everybody that I was on the panel with yesterday, like, Andrea and Steve and Luke and Andy, that would be outstanding. That would be really cool. I was telling my wife about it last night, and I'm just like, yeah, all these people that I admire, and the people that have been on my tent poles of, like, the pillars of my narration styles, of because I've never gotten a narration before, or even listened to it in fiction before I started working in it. So to have that, be on that panel with these people, I'm like, oh, I'm doing it. I think I'm doing the thing right. That makes me very happy. I love that. In regards to but people that I probably could work with like tomorrow, because it's usually male, female. I mean, if Andrea's not busy, I'd love to work with her as a partner on something. Hello. We both work at Podium sometimes. That'd be great. But even so, like anybody and everybody. And it's going to be the same with authors too. Like I've been incredibly blessed in this genre specifically, but in my work as a whole, that I've worked with a lot of great. Yes. I would love 10,000 different accents. Please give me all of them. All of them. But I've been incredibly blessed to have worked with a wide litany of excellent authors and very talented people with pens and such. So that, to me, I'm just like, as long as I can just keep that going, it will eventually, work out. I know that there's some people that I've wanted to work with for a while that, at first we couldn't just because of scheduling or things of that nature. But now through different publishers, we can, which is great. And so yeah, like I will happily work in this genre with everybody and anybody as long as you're not a dick. That's my criteria. That is what I judge it by. But nobody really is, so that's great. So I love that. I know that's a very general, boring actor answer. I love them all equally. I want to work with everyone equally. But that's kind of how it is. But let me see. If I could work on something in, like, say, let me do a little research, pull up that wonderful Audible page, because that's what I kind of have to do anymore, like, just because there's so much stuff. I use it as like a referral, and I try to just point out like, oh yeah, this would be great, oh this would be dope, I'd love to work with these people, because that helps me. I mean, I know I'm working on another book by Sean Oswald later in the year, but I'd love to work on another series from him. Just like that would make me very, very happy. I'd love to start working on Quest Academy 2 as soon as possible, Brian. I know you're listening. So that'd be great. And just there was one that I was supposed to work on for Mountaindale with another Maxwell Farmer book, but that sadly fell through for reasons I'm not entirely sure. But I hope that eventually those get fixed and we can work on that again, because Dr. Druid was a lot of fun, even though some people thought I was overacting. Hey, Clash Shift! Fan of Clash Shift! That was a lot of fun. That one, I was surprised at how much love that got, and how much hate poor little Mischief got. That poor little mouse, for those who haven't listened, this poor little tiny little mouse
who's just so sort of, innocent. He's just trying to learn how to do things.
But that voice is kind of the voice I give my cat internally and externally. So I love that voice, and I wanted to shoehorn it in, but it made me so sad that people hated it. Some others loved it, and that was great. All right, we have another star question. What would push you in the narration space, like something that would give you extra fulfillment and joy? Okay. So what would make me get all giddy and excited? Get my blood pumping? I would say something highly anticipated, something that like readers are very much waiting for the audio, and something that people go, oh yeah, they're my first choice. He's my first choice. I need him to read this for me. I need him to read this book. Knowing that somebody who wrote this and who, it got so much love, it got so much hype, it was so ready, wrote that and then said, this is the guy who needs to do this, who needs to be the one to give this life. That would make me just like, I owe it to the book to do well. I owe it to the author. I owe it to the fans. And so that gives me sustenance. It's like, yeah, people are anticipating good. Some people might fold under that pressure, but I'm like, nope, let's do it. Let's get this. I see. Oh, Dan's Inferno. Oh, geez. Oh, Dan's Inferno. No. Not that I dislike it, but I was just like, that one was a bit of a fun favor with my friend Jessica that kept going. Would you want to be on TV, not just Broadway? I would love to do everything and anything. I've auditioned for TV shows. I've auditioned for video games. I audition for theater stuff all the time. I'm going off to do a theater gig in less than a week in Philly, which is very exciting. It's a little hush-hush just because they haven't said anything, so I have to wait. But I'm very excited. It will not stop me from narrating. I'm going to do something incredibly, possibly foolish, and continue to have a full-time narrating job while doing this lead in a musical. We'll see how that goes. I'm anticipating it going okay. But everybody that needs to know now knows. And so they're all very supportive, and like, as long as the quality doesn't suffer, it's okay. And this is fine. So that was very nice to kind of have that trust at this point, which makes me feel like I'm doing it right for, a little bit. For so long, I was worried that I'm still not there. I'm still not really doing this correctly. Like, I feel like I can do more. I feel like I can have more. I feel like, I'm not quite up to par with everybody else. And that might not go away, but it's not necessarily like, imposter syndrome stopping me from doing my job and stopping me from continuing to move forward. I think it's more like, hey, you're really lucky to be doing this. And, it keeps me humble, and it keeps me constantly wanting to better myself. So yeah, but like when publishers are like, hey, we have the patience, we understand, we know you're going to do well. That's a nice thing to be like, you are doing well. See, you're doing this correctly. So we got, Brian, dream character to narrate. Okay. Basically any character where I can just talk like this. Like anything that's very in the gravelly bass baritone. Not too many characters, because like I had one book that was just like everyone was described as having a deep resounding voice, and I'm like, it's so hard to do this. Stop asking for bass baritones. There is just, give some fluctuation. Hey, there's the inspiration. You're the inspiration for that voice. Well, for the character. But hello, TJ. Do I need a custom booth setup for my magical voice? I do have a certain setup. My setup is in my closet. It is a standard New York, nice New York apartment closet. It's got a little bit of walk-in room. There is an alcove that is perfectly spaced for a microphone. I have a Rhodes NT1A, that whole setup, that whole shebang. Scarlett AI, very much like baby's first microphone, baby's first voiceover kit. But the sound dampening blankets all throughout. And I also just use Audacity. And then I just stand there for 6 hours and record. Like today, I started recording at around, I want to say like 10:15, 10:20. And then I kept going until about like 1, stop for a little bit of lunch, jump back in for another like 2 hours or so. My standard day for recording is about probably like 5 to 6 hours. So you made Petro sound so badass. Yeah, he's a mob boss. Yeah, he's a mob boss. I'm gonna have to listen to like all of these like voices again, though. That's the problem. It's like, that's the problem with trying to give everybody personality. Everybody has a personality now. So it's very difficult to make sure that I'm accurate for the next books and stuff. But that's me doing that to myself, and I'd rather have the fun voices than just everybody sounds the same. But whoopsie there. Okay, Grayson. Hey, buddy. Welcome. Yes. Oh, yes. So this smarmy British assassin, who was the first book I think I ever did where I narrated the entire thing in an accent, like in an English accent. No, okay, it was the second or third, but it was the first one where it's like, this is a lit RPG like kind of vibe, and like this is bigger. Like it was all around the same time that these three happened. But that one, that voice, I remember Grayson sending me clips from an anime that was like this kind of British, not too British, but just a British enough. And so that voice for me just took on such a wonderful life. For those of you, it's Isekai Assassin. It's a great series. Go check it out. But actually, my favorite voice in that book is not his. It's not the MC's. It's his. I think it's Reese. It's the character of Reese, who's a fellow assassin. And the way that he came across when he first is introduced gives off a vibe that I'm just like, this guy's like too cool for school. This guy's like so friggin' casual. It was like Billy D. Williams in that old 40 commercial that he did in the 70s, where he's like super cool and he's like sponsoring this liquor. And I'm just like, that's it. He's Billy D. Williams. So I'm just doing my best Billy D. Williams impression for the first, and then he becomes Southern for whatever reason. So he's like Billy D. Williams from Georgia. So that was a very fun series. So I'd love to see either of those characters come back. And actually though, but it was such a challenge because some voices and some characters, they just feel right. And so it felt wrong to not narrate the entire thing with the English accent, even like mildly or what have you. But there are some books that I've done that like I did a Northern English accent for the very first one I ever did, with like trying to knock it out of the park for a new client. And he's been a continued client, James Haddock. Every book I've done for him has been something so wildly different accent-wise that it's some of the most fun I get to have in the booth. Like every character is just either like, there was one I did that was Scottish that was so difficult. Hey, thank you, Grayson. I hope I did well. That's always my worry. Hello, John. Yes, good old Sosaku Online. That one, I remember getting that and getting to the final book, book 3 for that, and just thinking, are there more? Can there be more? Will there please be more? So, John, please, can I have more? They're very fun. I very much enjoy that series. for whatever reason, it just scratches that part of my brain that's like, yes, this good. Yay, there will be more! Yes! I'm excited. That makes me happy. You heard it here first. Good. And I will be voicing them. Regardless of what you think. Even if you agree. Even though you agree, I'm still doing it. Of all your voices or imitations, fan favorite from my friend group. Bold of you to assume I have friends. That was sad. But anyway, I'd say when I was growing up, I was decent at a couple of impressions. I was decent at Marlon Brando in The Godfather, and I was decent at Christopher Walken-ish isms. For my family, there was a character that we made up just to be goofy that would like order like take out stuff in this silly voice who sounded like Paul Lynde or Roger the Alien from American Dad, like so Paul Lynde. But that was his character's name was Glenn. He was fun. And then Archimedes and Upgrade Apocalypse. That was so. I'm glad that you appreciate it and that it's one of your favorites. If I'm being completely off the cuff, not one of mine. That one, because of the dichotomy between him and Cheddarfield. Cheddarfield not only just sits more natural. Yes, Clovis. Love Clovis. I'll get to Clovis in a moment, but Archimedes, it just sits more, it sits in a higher register. It was the same problem that I had for Wyvern Academy, those series, if anybody's listened to those. Those ones, the one main character just sit better in my voice. It just felt better. That's a lot of nice fun. That's a lot of nice feelings. Thank you, James. I hope so. I hope that they think that it's amazing, and I do hope that they sell. I have no idea. Nobody tells me anything. I get paid per finished hour, so once that's done, I'm just like bye. But yeah, other fun voices. My aforementioned voice that I used for Class Shift for Little Mischief the Mouse, that is the voice of my cat, Potato, and my wife loves that voice. So that's a very fun one. But Clovis was a very fun voice to figure out, because that one I had to audition, and I had to really, really work at. Yes. Right, Grayson. That was a co-written one. I have a memory. It doesn't fail me. But yeah, that was a I love it when they do have like the switching protagonists, because it is a fun, like, with your voice, like play up and down. But some just are easier than others, and the ones that sit more in the chest for me, just because that's where my voice naturally sits, that is more comfortable and more fun. Are there any voices that you absolutely regret making and dread seeing chapters with it? Not anymore. I think that for certain books that have finished, there were voices that hurt, and there were voices that I just didn't place right, especially considering that there are multiple characters. Okay, there is one. It's in Battleborn, the Dave Wilmarth series. I love his squad. I love the entirety of the squad, but the ogre of that squad, that voice just, it's very here. He's here all the time, and he's also Southern. He's kind of is like that sort of vibe, and he's very, like, big, because he's an ogre, so he's constantly fighting, and I can even feel it now, right here in my throat, because it doesn't stay there. Like, Max is down here. Max is very serious, and then the other members of his crew, one's kind of like a New Yorker Bill Burr, that sort of vibe. And then the other one, Smitty's totally tubular. I don't know why I go so extreme with it, but I love it. But yeah, no, I do. But I do. I regret it more for just the health, and that's the thing. I love the voices that I've done for them. I don't regret them from a creative or a character standpoint, but I do regret it because sometimes they just get right into here, and it hurts the voice, it hurts the chords, stops me from doing my job. I do tend to warm up every day. I tend to steam for about 10 minutes and then do a vocal warm up, like a singer warm up and stuff like that. So I start my day at like 9:30 and then get into the booth around like 10:15 and then I stand there for about 6 to 7 hours and talk. And I've been informed I have about 5 minutes. So if anybody wants to get any other burning questions in, any sort of things like that, it can be completely outside of voice acting, but also career based, or just like, other interests or other books things or other stuff like that, or upcoming projects. I can plug those right now, actually, while I wait and see if other people ask questions. So upcoming projects. I just had a new James Haddock book drop, Inherited Revenge. Very fun. Never got to voice a character that's basically like a beaten dog for the entire series, because everything bad just keeps happening to this guy, and he's only 15, so that's very fun. I just finished Lion's Lineage 2 from Mountain Dale Press. That one is going to be coming out soon, and I'm currently working on Hack, Slash, and Burn 3. I was just finishing doing some recording there. Oh, yes. Let me do the shameless plugs. To answer, do I have a Discord or other ways to follow me? I prefer to be followed on Instagram, at Dan the Voice Man, because that is where I send all of my audio updates. I am an ancient eldritch being in regards to technology, because I do not know how any of it works. It just does not appeal to me. How would I voice an angel? Oh, okay. That's fun. So that's actually pretty interesting. So one of my first books I ever did was for a small Christian-based publishing company that had a book, like a sci-fi book about angels coming to Earth. So I think I gave them very light, but still powerful, light and grounded at the same time. Very here, very be not afraid, for I am with you. Kind of like Val Kilmer in The Prince of Egypt. That sort of whispering when he's the burning bush. That kind of vibe, that sort of, I don't need to speak any louder, because if I do, I will shatter your ears. That confident. Yes, be not afraid. Is it being incredibly handsome while having that voice as big of a bird and as sexy people would have the rest of us believe? I wouldn't know, my guy. I wouldn't know. I think I look like a toe. That's just, even now I'm looking at my head, I'm like, why does my head look like a thumb? Like, but that's just coming from a childhood, where I was kind of chubby, and puberty was very kind until it wasn't, because then I got acne until I didn't. Thanks, antibiotics. That was wonderful. But that's actually, that's kind of why I love booth work. I don't, you know what? Ask Harmon. He was supposed to send me a whole care package of hamster beanies that shot lasers out of their eyes. He was supposed to. How dare he? Oh, thank you, James. I do try. I'm working on a skincare routine with my wife right now to try and make myself look so better. But it is kind of one of the reasons why I love voice acting, because to me, it's kind of, yes, get in there. It's kind of wonderful in a way to do the acting that I like to do in audiobooks, which, I just can't just read it. I know that that's a big complaint that people have given to me, and it's fair. It's a very fair complaint. I do sound very in a world where darkness reigned all the time. But 2 points. 1, have you seen what I narrate? Most of them have giant world-ending eldritch horrors, dragons, and just apocalypses all the time. A good 10% of my titles have apocalypse in the name. 2, I can't do it any other way. I've tried to be straight. I've tried to be flat. I've tried to be clinical. Clinical's the best word for it. But I think that I need to put emotion more so into it and treat it like a voice actor who is narrating rather than a narrator who... No. Yes, I'm a voice actor who's narrating rather than a narrator trying to be a voice actor. That's what it is. It's like, that is my base switch. It's like, everybody's got to have fully fleshed personalities, fully fleshed voices. Even the narrator has a point of view, because the narrator is the one telling the story, so they have something to say and something to do. I hope you're doing well too. Thank you for jumping in. Wonderful. And what would be the dream stage performance? Phantom, but that's gone now, so whoops. That was my dream show. Phantom, Les Mis, Beauty and the Beast. My top 3 musicals. Plays, I love August Wilson. I love Arthur Miller, the classics in that regard. I really love Doubt. That one's coming back to Broadway soon with Liev Schreiber, so I really want to see that. And but yeah, I'm a big fan of the '80s power ballad musical. As if you couldn't tell from that, everything about how I live my life. Be not afraid, as it were. But yeah, I'd say that's about time. I really appreciate you guys coming in. Dragon Con, who knows? It falls around my anniversary, so that's kind of always a little tricky, shaky. But I will try if I can, and I hope that I can. And that way I get to meet all of you lovely people in person, hopefully. But thank you so much for jumping in. Get on it, Brian. Write it. It'd be wonderful. My range is from G to A. But I really appreciate this. This has been very, very cool. And yeah, thanks so much for having me. Check me out at the panel later today about the technicals of doing voice acting. That is at 6 o'clock. And yeah, thank you so much for joining me for this time. I hope you guys have a lovely day.